So like Sanjeev said, I'm going to talk a little bit about what we've done at CGI around Value Management Office. But I'm going to specifically set the scope around our research and development in our emerging technologies practice, because that's where I work. So what I want to caveat here, I'm going to talk a lot about our AI solution. I am not the engineer. I did a lot of the product type of work, but I'm not the engineer. So if you want to have a deeper conversation, hit me up. I'll connect you with the right people. So what I want to talk about is how we used VMO and the concepts around lean portfolio management and VMO to bring an enterprise solution called our CGI AI Assist without any capital funding at all, none. Using solely investment horizons, priorities, and a proper management of our runway. So because innovation just doesn't apply to technology, I want to also point out, let's not underestimate the importance of process innovation and people innovation, which is why I'm kind of really focusing on the VMO aspect. So before I get into all of that, this is me. This is my AI-generated headshot because my boss said my other one was too outdated, and I had to get a new one before this event. Here are some links if you want to read some stuff that I've written. You should be able to have a copy of those slides, I think, after the event. So I'm not going to go into a whole lot of what I do, other than I work in our emerging technologies practice at CGI Federal. We are mainly a federal contractor. We are part of a larger global. We are a subsidiary of CGI Global, which is a 90,000 global business and IT consulting company. So let's dive into what we've done with our VMO. To begin, this is CGI's view or strategy around Value Management Office. And it's really the significance in our organization is it serves as a strategic framework that really optimizes our value delivery, ensures alignment around our organizational goals and objectives, and is designed to adapt to changing priorities, especially in the world of emerging technology and AI, using what we've all used for the last 20 years, commonly known as Agile principles and best practices. And we use this to be adaptive and keep up with technology changes and really maintain momentum in that dynamic environment, with technology. Additionally, by integrating some AI elements into our VMO, into our operating model, we've enhanced decision-making, we've improved operational efficiency, and we're really focused around what we like to call radical transparency. So not only do I know what my teams are working on, but everybody in the rest of CGI Federal knows what we're working on, what the value is, what the outcomes and the results are. It's all transparent and it's all out there. So let's dive a little bit deeper into the challenge. Rewind. About 2 years ago, ChatGPT hit the market, right? Okay. We were faced with what I like to call the PMO-VMO paradox. I would like to take credit for that. One of my really smart business analysts came up with that little phrase. But really, we had to justify our investment funding in a strict governance, project management type culture, project after project after project, but we also had to show the value and the outcomes of what we were delivering. Now keep in mind, we're emerging technologies. We do a lot of applied research and development. So where does our money come from? Our investments. So there's scrutiny there, right? Everybody wants to know where the R&D dollars go. So as we dive into this, let's explore what really prompted our shift in the way we're working in emerging technologies and what shifted us to adopting this value management approach. We had a lot of problems going on. Well, not a lot, but we had significant challenges. And they were multifaceted. Not all of them were easy to see. Not all of them were readily apparent. For example, the data that we used to track within our own systems was disjointed and wasn't integrated. Our financial teams didn't talk to our product development teams. Our financial data was not available with our results data. Our members put their time in. How did we know what time they would spend on which particular projects without a lot of manual reports, Excel compilation, etc.? So that was leading us to inefficiencies, missed opportunities, and just overhead expenditures. We lacked visibility, which compounded these challenges. We struggled to know what our own teams were working on, let alone what the teams across the rest of our organization were working on to deliver for their clients. So just a little bit about the hierarchical structure. We're emerging technologies. We develop the capabilities that eventually turn into solutions that we offer to our clients. The rest of the organization are those client teams that work directly with those clients to implement those solutions. So we didn't have visibility into what their clients' needs were. So how were we aware of whether or not we were developing the right capabilities for the right challenges and the right needs? We weren't. In addition to these operational hurdles, we encountered some budget overruns for our R&D efforts that we could not justify, quite a bit. So we found ourselves in a situation where we had to justify our R&D. My boss likes to say we had to justify our existence, which is not too far from the truth. And we really needed to take a look at what we were doing and why we were doing it. Beyond that, we recognized the need for some type of AI governance for usage in our organization, beyond just a policy and paper that says, don't put your data in ChatGPT, don't put your client data in ChatGPT, we trust y'all to do that, yay. But we're also expecting our members to be more efficient, right? To find faster ways of delivering quicker with less. Why not use AI, right? So we took it upon ourselves, our emerging technologies practice, to develop a tool, an assistant, equivalent to what you see in the market to provide these optimization capabilities for our internal developer teams, our internal Agile teams, and our finance teams, our HR teams, everybody across the team or across the organization, because we didn't feel like the written policy for responsible use of AI was enough. It's good, it's not enough, especially being a U.S. federal contractor. There's specific data requirements, securities, compliance policies that you all have to be mindful of. Especially when you think of things like controlled, unclassified information, right? Anybody, federal contractors or federal government? You shaking your heads? Okay, so you understand the need there. So addressing these challenges required a strategic and innovative approach. In the age of automate the AI, automate the tech, we cannot forget and ignore the other two sides of that triangle, people and process, and there are challenges there as well. So the solution. We had to find a nice balanced approach that met our PMO's needs, that satisfied our global companies' continuous demands on where their capital funding was going, where their investment dollars were going. But we also had to be innovative. We also had to justify our return on investment, but still provide value, still provide outcomes, not outputs. So we shifted from thinking about projects to thinking about return on investment. Everything we do is centered around return on investment. Compliance tracking, we shifted that approach to value realization and outcomes. We moved away from fixed plans and roadmaps, and we started doing adaptive planning. I like to say we started drinking our own tea, because we've been consulting on this for years. I was one of the first to raise our hand and say, why are we not doing this ourselves? They finally started listening. We shifted from outputs, measuring hours, data, to outcomes. What is actually being delivered? What is that actual value? What's that feature? We started breaking down these silos and collaborating with our business units so we could hear the real challenges that are going on. We started attending their client meetings. We started talking with the clients ourselves. And we realized real quickly, a one-size-fits-all solution does not work. You have to tailor the way of working to the type of work you're doing and the challenges that you're facing. In our case, you're not going to do Value Management Office, VMO, or any type of Agile methodology or framework in R&D work the same way you're going to do in software development, the same way you're going to do in managed services, the same way you're going to do in hardware. It's got to be unique. And we ended up with something that looks a little bit more like this. We brought those together, and we started bringing those project outcomes to where they were totally focused on the mission. We had to tailor our VMO to be specific to our organizational needs and challenges. We did a lot of experimenting. That first 6 months was rough. That first 6 months was about 60-hour weeks for me on average. It was rough. I'm not there now, thank goodness, but it took us a little while. Change management was rough too. There was a lot of buy-in that we had to work on. We did a lot of experimenting, but let's see what happened next. My boss said we need to do this. He established a mission. He established the objectives he wanted to meet. I said, great, you're 25% there. Let's figure out how to take your mission and put it into reality. And this is the roadmap I came up with to be able to implement Value Management Office in our emerging technologies organization. Again, we didn't replace things like HR. We didn't replace things like contracting and legal. We still needed those sources. But we did replace how we managed our funds. We did remove all of that from the project management, from leadership, and we determined how we were spending our funds. We prioritized our initiatives based on the funding, the mission, the demand, and everything we do is aligned around return on investment, which when I start talking about KPIs is our number one KPI. How much of that money are we giving back to our organization? And we started this mantra, this cry, 128% return on investment. We want to give you back every bit you pay for and then an additional 25%. Everything we did, we were asking ourselves, is this going to map back to the mission? Is this going to drive the mission objectives? Is this going to do return on investment? If it doesn't, then we didn't do it. We backlogged it until later, or it got removed from the backlog altogether. We also started really experimenting with automation and kind of applying our automation delivery model. Our next mantra was no new taxes, because we had to reduce overhead and we had to lean out our processes. So we thought, again, why not drink our own tea? We can automate all of our reporting, all of our data collection. We're building AI, why not use the AI, right? So we leveraged the AI. We built and pulled all of our data together into this joint data repository and started producing these dashboards for that radical transparency. But then we added an AI agent on the back end of that shuffled through, and we were using Jira at the time. We've since moved to Azure DevOps, but shuffled through all of our Jira data, summarized the comments, and provide the narrative to that data for every initiative and every epic we were working on. So what did that translate to? I had the story behind our hours. I had the story directly inputted from the developer, him or herself. And all my members had to do was enter their timesheets in Deltek, like they would have to anyway, enter their tickets appropriately broken down, and add their comments appropriately. That's what they were doing anyway. I just used the current process and leaned out the reporting behind it. No new taxes. We started seeing some outcomes. One of the things we noticed is we were still being kind of siloed. This was about 3 months in. So we did some mapping around our value stream. How does this work actually flow through our emerging technologies practice? And we aligned it with, you might be familiar with the technology readiness levels that NASA uses. We aligned it with that. So we start with research, catalyst, discovery, forecast here. And then we would move through prototyping. That's where we would do our testing and our applied research in lab environments. Then once we realized that the capabilities were acceptable, they met our clients' needs, they met the demand signals, we started doing product transition and shifting those into actual solutions. And then we built standards and frameworks, or we applied current industry standards and frameworks and best practices on how to implement those, how to deliver those, and how to go to market. Then we were able to hand those off to our account teams. So that was our value stream. That's essentially high level what our value stream is. And this is our operating model. So there's a lot of systems, a lot of things going on here that I'm not going to really get into a whole lot, but you can see some of the things I talked about and how these systems all map back. But the thing I want to point out, the work tracking by the user, the time tracking by the user, our developers, business analysts, product owner, whomever, that's all they had to do. Everything else is automated on the back end. And I had these pretty dashboards to take to our senior leadership cabinet and my boss had these pretty dashboards and this data to take to our global. But the point is the core values. Here's where the people and culture fit in. Here's where the process fits in. This technology solution is great, and I still struggle a little bit reminding our leadership that a VMO is not my cool technology solution that we all work together to build. That's not what it is. That's what enables our VMO. The VMO is the way we work, the way we align around value, the way we are all focused on outcome, the way we are all focused on mission, the way we're all pointed in the same direction within these guardrails that we're working in. Maybe we bump the guardrails a little bit at a time. If we're bumping them too much, then we take a look at the process. We experiment and learn. But those are our core values. That's what the team came up with themselves. And that's what we do every day. We focus on our values. Are we being collaborative? Are we being innovative? Are we focusing on excellence? Are we sustainable? Are we being lean? And all of these principles applied with the way we're working. So, once we established these core values, we came up with our ways in working. We did this for a year. How do you think we did? This is our main dashboard that went to leadership that goes all the way to our Canadian global company. This was our goals. This was the executive KPIs. This is what we came up with. So yeah, member satisfaction was a little low. Not quite met that one. But hey, that was a year of change. That was a lot of work. Of course you're going to have some folks that are a little, but we blew the targets away because we had this. We had this data. I knew where we were every point of the year on our return on investment. We forecasted it. Everything we were working on. We had our risk logs right there on the executive dashboard for everybody to see. We had our flow metrics. We had our hours spent. We had our turnover. We even had financials. This is where your dollars are going, guys. Yes, this too. We even showed in traditional earned value metrics, or earned value management metrics, because our finance department was a stickler on this. They didn't think we could do it. We have a way of translating agile development to earned value. We even did this and provided that for them. And this, traditional flow metrics for software development. How's our work divided up? How's our distribution? All of this data, all automated, based on 2 inputs from our members. So that's cool, right? The numbers are cool, but those are outputs. Let's talk about the outcomes. The outcomes are what really get exciting, because this is the outcome. We were able to develop a multimodal, multifaceted, complete agentic AI solution for our internal members to use, to leverage, to optimize the work, deploy that enterprise level to 8,000 plus people without capital funding, using our VMO to track our investment horizons, to prioritize and focus on what we were working on and deliver it and get it out there. So I want to talk a little bit about this solution, since this conference is about innovation as well as agility. Again, we optimized our business processes. We're using this to streamline our workflows and automating tasks beyond ETP now. We're taking it into our other organizations, our finance group, our HR group. We have an HR bot. No longer do I have to go to HR Oracle page and search through all those links. I can go to my HR bot. What time do I have to use my PTO time by the end of the year? Boom, it's there. We provide advanced analytics, as you saw a moment ago, for our leadership. We're also able to use those analytics in a prescriptive manner to predict trends when it comes to emerging technologies. And here's the kicker. We are able to align with federal government security and privacy requirements. We utilize technologies like Azure, .NET, Vue, Claude, GPT-4o for efficient enterprise solutions, but we have built also versions in AWS. We're experimenting with Google Cloud right now, and we're partnering with our federal agency partners to build these types of solutions on their internal platforms as well. So some of the capabilities that we were able to explore and overcome is conversational multi-session supports, multimodal, Flexible architecture. Again, this can be tailored to Azure, this can be tailored to AWS, this can be tailored to Google. We really focus on automating those complex tasks using agents, or even better, the tedious, mundane tasks. And we use things like retrieval augmented generation to pull data from secure data sources and secure databases. And we also use that to process and prompt the outputs. We also turn data share features off for our APIs. We have agents that select the correct large language model to determine whatever you're doing is based on your prompts. Whether I'm coding and need to use Claude, or I'm using content creation and I need to hit GPT 4.0, or whatever. It automatically does that for our users. We've also secured this with different sensitivity levels. So every session I have, before I can even start it, has to have a sensitivity level. It limits the data to which I can access the information. If I'm in a highly confidential, I can only access certain bits of information. I can only put in certain bits of information. It's also based on permission, single sign-on. It follows me all the way through based on the source. If I don't have permission to access a particular data source, I can't access that data source. So, and of course, real-time analytics. And we've been able to increase productivity, but not only that, what we've learned, the bugs that we've worked out on our side, our lessons learned, we're able to talk to our clients and say, hey, yeah, we've solved that problem. Here's how we did it. And help them solve those problems too, so that they don't have to make the same mistakes that we did, and they don't have to expend their funding, especially in the federal government right now where things are really tight. Some of the benefits we've received globally: 20% increase in quality. And that's on average. Of course, it's higher and lower in some areas. More efficient. We're responding to proposals faster. And here's where we're going next. This is what I'm excited about. We're implementing Databricks as a middle tier layer to process and compile the data for us. So not only do we have that AI on the back end, but we're able to take in and consume more data, scrub that data, and then output based on what we've compiled in Databricks. So that gives us more fluency with the ability to move around the data, to match up the data, and do all of that. And it increases productivity in the system itself because everything's managed in Databricks. So we're working on that also. So this is our next big step with both our AI Assist tool and the cool thing that we're doing with ETP to manage our work in our VMO. So our bluff, for those of you guys who are in the federal government, bottom line up front, you have to consider the process. You have to consider the people. You can't just focus on the technology. You have to determine how you're going to do this, not just what you're going to do. You have to line everybody around that mission, those shared objectives. Determine how you're going to measure those objectives. Agree upon those KPIs. Make sure that you're finding ways to automate where you can, including leaning out your processes. Sometimes finding efficiencies is simply removing waste. You don't need to automate it. You just remove it. That's great too. Thank you very much.